Welcome to today's lesson on fractional parts of a number. Today we're going to discuss what fractional parts of a number means and how to find the fractional part of a whole number. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin today using the diagram on the screen below. We have 12 students in this diagram. 12 is going to be our whole number. Our fractional part of the number is going to be 3/4. We're going to say that 3/4 of our students in this group are girls. And I want you to tell me how many girls we have in this group. Well, our first step is to break apart our whole number, which is 12 students, into 4 equal groups because we're trying to find 3/4 of 12. So let's go ahead and let's break this apart into 4 equal groups. So I have 4 equal groups of 3 students each. Now I need to shade in 3 whole groups to represent 3/4. So I'm going to shade in 3 groups, and that's going to tell me how many students out of 12 students in all are girls. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that tells me that 3/4 of 12 is equal to 9. And we used a simple diagram to be able to chart out our fractional part of our whole. Let's look at another problem together. Let's say that 3 friends each have 3/5 of a dollar. How much money do they all have together? Well, let's use the diagram on the screen. As you can see, we have $3, one for each friend. But as we said, each friend doesn't have a whole dollar. They only have 3/5 of a dollar. So we're going to shade in 1, 2, 3/5 for the first friend, 1, 2, 3/5 for the second friend, and 1, 2, 3/5 for the third friend. So now, as you can see, we have 3/5 3 times. And that's going to be able to tell us what 3/5 of 3 wholes is. Now, you might have noticed that this looked a lot like repeated addition or multiplication. And that's because it is. So let's look at this visual and think about it mathematically. We can also write this as 3/5 times 3 wholes. All right, so let's look at our diagram. That means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9/5. So I'm going to write in 9/5 that the 3 friends have in all. Now let's look at our work. 3 times 3 equals 9, and 5 times 1 equals 5. So that worked out. So what exactly is 9/5 of a dollar? Sometimes, when you're trying to find the fractional part of a number, you won't always get a whole number like we got on our last screen. Sometimes you'll end as a fraction. Other times, especially when we're working with money, you might need to take one step further and change your fraction into a decimal. So let's go ahead and take this one step further. We are going to find out what 9/5 is as a decimal. We need to divide 9 into fifths. In order to do that, we're going to see how many times 5 can go into 9. 5 can go into 9 one time. 5 times 1 equals 5. And then when I subtract down, that gives me a remainder of 4. Now, since I don't have anything else to bring down, I'm going to put a decimal and add a 0. So now I'm going to bring down my 0, and 5 can go into 40 8 whole times. 5 times 8 equals 40, and I've zeroed out my equation. But remember, we're working with money, and money goes to the hundredths place, so we're going to need to add a 0 to the hundredths place. And that's going to tell us that 9/5 of a dollar is equal to $1.80. Now, it's important to understand that your answer will either be kept in fractional or whole number form or converted into a decimal, depending on what your word problem is and what unit you're going to be working with. Since we were working with money, we needed to convert this into a decimal. In our last problem, we were working with students, so we were going to keep it as a whole number. Let's walk through a practice problem together. There are 20 pencils in the box. 1/5 of the pencils are red. How many pencils are not red? Well, we have a couple things going on here. First, we're finding the fractional part of our whole number. Now we need to find out 1/5 of 20 because we know that 1/5 of the pencils are red. But we also need to go one step further because we're trying to find out how many pencils are not red. So that means if 1/5 of the pencils are red, then 4/5 of the pencils are not red. So we actually need to find out what 4/5 of 20 is. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and set up our problem. We know that we're going to be multiplying 20 wholes times 4/5. So I'm going to set up 20 wholes times 4/5. 20 times 4 equals 80. 1 times 5 equals 5. 80/5? What is 80/5? Well, we need to go ahead and simplify this problem. To simplify, we're going to divide our numerator and our denominator by the same number. We're going to divide them both by 5. 5 divided by 5 equals 1 whole. 80 divided by 5 equals 16. So that means that we have 16 wholes. So we know that 4/5 of 20 is 16 wholes, and that means that we have 16 pencils that are not red. Let's take a moment to review what you've learned in today's lesson. When you're trying to find the fractional part of a whole number, you're trying to find part of a whole. So here we're going to try to find 3/4 of 3 wholes. Now there's a few ways you can approach this problem, but first we're going to look at a visual. You can use fraction bars or you can use diagrams. So I have 3 wholes and 3/4 of each hole is shaded in. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fourths. So I know that 3/4 of 3 wholes is equal to 9 fourths. However, 9 fourths is left as a fraction. Now depending on what your unit is, sometimes you might want to leave it as a fraction. In other cases, you might need to convert this into a decimal. In order to convert this into a decimal, you're going to need to divide your numerator by your denominator. 4 can go into 9 2 times. 4 times 2 equals 8, and we subtract down, that gives us 1. Since we don't have any other place values to bring down, we have to put our decimal and a 0 as a placeholder so that we can now bring our 0 down. 4 can go into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 equals 8, and when we subtract down, that gives us 2. I bring down one more 0, and 4 can go into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 equals 20, and when I subtract down, that gives me a remainder of 0. So looking at this problem, I can say that 3/4 of 3 is 9 fourths, or if I wanted to convert it into a decimal, 2 and 25 hundredths.